Okay, we welcome you to our conference this afternoon, and I'm going to turn things over to Jeremiah from 5080, involved with their RYLA program, but he is by profession a counselor, and let him take it away. Jeremiah, tell us about what's happening with our kids since pandemic.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the intro. I want to start for a moment. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and I just think it's really as the one who's beginning this opportunity. I know Rotary. I just was talking to a gentleman named David Keys a couple of weeks back, and he was telling me how Rotary is really big and active in keeping peace. In all the things that we do. It's one of our big endeavors is to help people and bring peace wherever we can bring peace. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. I think it's fair for me to give up a good 10 seconds of silence just so that we can think, pray, whatever it is that you do, about the people who aren't safe enough in the world right now to do the things we're about to do right here. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I know that might be a little awkward for some of you, but the truth is we are very fortunate to be able to come together and do this stuff. As I was introduced, my name is Jeremiah. I am with Rotary District 5080, way up north in Idaho. And I'm here to just talk about what we're looking at as a path forward. I am a social science guy. That is my background. So my lens will definitely be from that vantage point. I want to take you on a little bit of a journey in the next couple of minutes. First, I want you to imagine that you're getting ready to jump off of a boat with a tank on your back and it's filled with oxygen. You're about to dip under the water. Hopefully none of you out there are terrified of water. If you are, I apologize. But that tank is ready to go. It's filled with oxygen. You hit the water, splash, you start to drop down a little bit, and you're still breathing. Because you have oxygen, you're taking it with you. Hang on to that analogy for the next few minutes because it's going to come back into play here in just a short minute. Back in 2006 was one of the very first years. These aren't precise dates because in social science, we can narrow it down somewhere around 2004 to 2006. We believe closer to 2006. We saw a huge increase in what we all carry around, these little iPhones, and teenagers started carrying them, right? And all of a sudden, access to consuming things just became huge. And between 2006 and 2017, we saw massive changes in social media and the impacts that had on teens. Fast forward a little bit, couple of years after that, all of a sudden COVID hits. So all of a sudden we got all these teens now using these iPhones and other phones, and they're consuming and interacting on social media. But COVID hits in 2020 and parts of the culture just absolutely freeze. Well, we also saw an acceleration. That's our path forward. And I'm going to help you see that today. If you haven't already, you probably, you smart people, you probably know where I'm going, because social science is often predictable if we slow down and just pay attention. But here's the reality. The teens in the 2006 to 2017 range, they had no idea what was actually happening to them. Where us as adults, we might see it a little bit more clearly. Teens couldn't escape the changes that were coming. So what did they do? 2006, they start consuming this land of social media, the internet. They consume the lives of other people. They consume that consumption culture leads to looking for what we want more of. So they were going in and just getting more and more of what they wanted. And it was a free space away from, oftentimes at least, away from adults, away from parents, away from others, where they could just do what they want. This was a freedom that was just incredible. It's both great and challenging all at the same time. And the result was we saw the greatest echo chamber we've ever seen develop during that time. We've never seen an echo chamber like this anywhere on the planet or in our history. And what was consuming them? Number one, They were consumed by seeking out things. You'll hear teenagers, even today, you still hear this aesthetics. They were looking for things that were beautiful or pretty or really neat. They were looking for things like sex. We saw increases in porn, massive increases. We saw people seeking answers to homework assignments and tests. We saw people seeking connection. Only it was a facade. They jumped off the boat thinking they had an oxygen tank, but really they didn't. They had a snorkel, and their oxygen was going to run up real fast. And this whole time, social media and other internet things were consuming from them their time, which is really important to consider. So all of these, by the way, happened at the fastest rate we've ever seen changes occur. And then COVID hits, right? COVID hits in 2020. And all of a sudden, that was the only connection any adults and kids had with each other in many cases. So we saw during this time period, this 2006 to 2014 time period, I know I bumped it back a little bit. We saw less in-person time by massive quantities, dips we've never seen in recorded history. But when COVID hits, all of a sudden the adults recognize we have to do something too. And all of a sudden we start to see these huge, virtual, conferences happening for adults on things like Zoom. People were forced to get their connectivity oxygen through the internet because we couldn't do it in person, right? Like it just wasn't, we were told, you can't be within 6 feet of people. So people were getting their metaphorical hugs and their connection via video. We actually saw what obviously the research isn't done here. We're in the middle of it. But what we saw was a spike in younger teens turning to video and away from social media. They were turning to things like Roblox or Zoom or FaceTime because it was a better source of oxygen than the snorkel. It was the tank. They were going, wait a minute, I can actually get a connectivity breath in this way. And we discovered that our video conferencing software was unable to keep up with what we thought we needed or wanted. And so Zoom and others, like what we're doing right here, they played the catch-up game. We saw this huge explosion in the video technology because it does serve as a better breath of air, true oxygen than the social media was, because social media was, remember, about consumption, whereas video is more about interaction. It's about dialogue, not a series of monologues or going to get what you want. So what we think we're seeing now with this younger teens kind of, believe it or not, showing us adults a little bit, they're showing us that this video concept of video seminars and video gatherings, one, it's safe. And that's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And though it's not in person, it's the closest simulation to in person. It's more like a real oxygen tank. So what we are seeing is, we're seeing as the path forward, we're seeing more stuff like this, advancements in technology when it comes to things like this. We're going to get through this, and in a minute and a half, I'm going to be done. Most of you have never met me, and you will have heard this message all because of video. We're also seeing as the path forward, we're seeing this new introduction. Now there's reason to be cautious here, but this new introduction of AI. And AI helps us take videos like this, break them down in seconds, when previously it would have taken hours, put together really great content for people to put out on social media, where they can actually have real interaction because AI is helping with that. We don't know where that's going to take us yet, but that is a potential path forward that we are all going to have to consider. But most importantly, I want to give a shout out to the Rotary folks for putting together this conference, because it's safe places like this that really truly are the way of the future. Now, obviously we can't substitute all in person with stuff like this. That doesn't supplement quite perfectly, but we can take a breath of fresh air by doing things like this. And Rotary, in fact, is leading the way in many aspects of this, which is super, super cool. Again, please remember, it's not a perfect supplement for in-person, but why wouldn't we use these tools? So that's really a good path forward. Hey, I know I had a short time, but I thank you. And I think I'm handing it off to Cisco. Is that right?
Jeremiah, we're handing it off to past Assistant Governor Cisca Stellhorn, who's going to be picking up and talking about some things like a hybrid RYLA.
Yes, I am. So thanks, Jeremiah. I want to just ditto kind of what he said. RYLA is the largest peace project Rotary does. We are bringing community together with these kids. This was not part of what I wanted to say, but we're bringing these kids together to develop relationships that will last a lifetime. They are meeting people that they don't know, people in different socioeconomic environments, and they are coming together to learn to do teamwork. That will change the course of their life, and it will change the work that we do as Rotarians and they do around peace. So yes, I'm here to actually talk about our hybrid. So in 21, we hired Leader in You, and we did a 35-hour RYLA program online. I never thought it would be successful, but we started with 163, 35 hours later, and 10 o'clock at night, a couple of nights. And at 5 o'clock on Sunday, we ended with 163 kids that same time. One of my kids was a foster kid. We never knew where he was going to stay, but he always showed up, and I was hooked. They learned on that about team building. They learned about leadership. They learned about trust. They learned introspection, and they learned about being inspired. It was a safe environment for them, and it was fabulous. So the next year we decided to do a hybrid. So we do 3 days on Zoom, and we do 3 days in person. And we've kind of modified the 3 days. We've learned some stuff about it. It was really too long. Now what we do is this year we're going to do Sunday about 3 hours. We're going to do Monday about 2.5 hours, and we're going to be doing Tuesday about 2.5 hours. And then the kids get on a bus on Friday morning and they come back on Sunday. And on Saturday, we do a Boujam, which is a ropes course with them. And what I've learned over the last couple of years with that Zoom component is it's really a game changer for the kids when they show up at camp. Because the entire camp is now strategically planned. We just don't bring in speakers and then we go out with Rotarians to kind of guide the kids to talk. We have a plan of action on how to develop leadership skills and what leaderships are important, and how are they going to interact with people. So the first night is not only a get together, but it's also to learn about their personality style and their leadership characteristics. And then the kids have exercises that they get to do online to work with that, not only within their teams, because we have color teams, but not only within their smaller family teams, but also they mix around with the greater group so that they have to interact with others. So they learn over those 3 days, again, about team building and about what to look for, strengths and weaknesses. The other thing that they learn is they learn about trust, and how that is that they get to interact with all these people. And then at night we have what we call a debrief. It's going over, okay, what happened, what didn't happen, how could you have done it a little differently, what would you have liked to have done, so that they look at what they have accomplished that day. And then the next exercises that we do build on that. So it's always about strategically planning where they're moving forward. So the other thing they learn on Zoom is that it's okay to be introspective, it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to show up and talk about how you're feeling. Because we do what's called a bonfire. I'm assuming the rest of you have something like that at the end of the night. And even though it's on Zoom, we put a bonfire up on the screen. And so what they get to do is share how they felt about it or what they experienced with it. So we do that for the 3 days, and then we come to camp on Friday morning. Well, when the kids show up at the bus on Friday morning, they already know people. They don't have to spend 2 to 3 hours or 4 hours figuring out who's at camp, who's on my team, how do we deal with you. They already know that. So when they get on the buses and they get off the buses, they are ready to go learn more and be more engaging and involved. It's amazing to watch them pre-COVID and post-COVID, because it's just like I'm going to my Rotary meeting and I know Joan over there can do this and Bob can do that, and then they just hit the ground running. So let me see. So that's what we do, and that's why we do it. It's a little bit more expensive, but I think it's valuable. And the strategic planning of it has changed. And that to me is much more significant, because they learn how to be challenged, and it's directed, and they have activities that specifically do that. And they learn each one of the skills, the power skills that they need through the entire 6 days. What we're also doing, and I think this is part of mine too. How many more minutes do I have? I have a few more minutes. I'm going to try and share my screen. It's not necessarily a great video, but let me see. Slideshow. I'll begin. So what we're really trying to do with this, I don't know if you can see what you can see, but let's see. Yeah. So what we're really trying to do is also develop a pipeline of alumni kids. And so we have a 7-year process now that we're working with kids. And when they first come as campers, and then the next year they come back as what we call trailblazers. And I'm assuming you all have this too, but we've not really done this in the past. So now what we have coming back, not just the campers, but we have 35 to 40 of kids from last year coming back who help run the teams. The idea is within about 4 to 5 years, we'll develop enough of a pipeline that the Rotarians really have no place in it other than to be supervisors, but that the kids are teaching themselves. So it's peer-to-peer training, which we feel is really valuable. So we now have 3rd-year kids and a couple of 4th-year kids who will come back and have different roles. And their roles are, again, it's all strategically planned. When you're trailblazers, you know, you're working on the power skills and working on a program to develop those leadership skills. And I'm moving faster than probably I should, but so the other thing is that as they stay connected, so we keep connected with the alumni, and we have ongoing activities with them throughout the year, and we bring them back for some training, and then we'll bring them back the day before camp, and they'll do some more training so that they can step in and run their teams. The other thing is that we also try and keep track of all of our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year alumni and bring them in for training during the year. Some of them are Rotaractors, and then we engage them with the Interact clubs, and we also try and bring them into some social work with them. We do have some college kids that really like to come back. The dilemma we have with them is that they have not only school, but probably work. And so it's much more difficult to get them back. So the other thing that we are doing, I'm so happy with, let me see, is, let me go back. Well, one of the things we're doing is we just formed in my club a satellite club with RYLA alumni. There are kids who went to RYLA about in the last 5 to 10 years, and they have now formed a Rotary club, and they're basically all RYLA students because they felt that they learned so much in RYLA that they wanted to give back. So that's a post-RYLA benefit I think we have. The other thing that we're working on through Leader and You is working on it is a peace RYLA, and it's post-RYLA for post-RYLA kids. The first one is going to be in January in the United States, and then we're going to do another one in Europe in March. It's a pilot with the RAG for peace. And that way we think that we're going to be able to get RYLA kids more engaged with Rotary and also to come back later and be active participants with Rotary. And I think I'm going to stop with that. Art, is that enough of talking for the moment?
Thank you so much, Cisca, for sharing that. I think it was a good bridge from what Jeremiah told us. And now talking about the rebuilding on the lower end of Interact and RYLA, Jeri Robertson from District 5495 will talk about why that district has 18 middle school Interact clubs and a junior RYLA. Jeri, take it away.
Greetings, everybody. From Surprise, Arizona. We're just west of Phoenix. So the last 8 years, I have been the faculty advisor from my school for a middle school RYLA group. And originally, we had a high school and I did the high school. And then when we closed the high school, the question was, what happens to it? So that's when we transitioned into, let's do a club for 5th, 6th, and 7th, or excuse me, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, excuse me. And so I went to our local Rotary Club that had been sponsoring us, and they said, absolutely, we'll keep sponsoring. We'd love to. And so what happened was we just simply transitioned from the upper grade levels to the lower grade levels. And there are some advantages to that, and there are some challenges to that. The first challenge, of course, is the maturity level. Some of our participants are as young as 10 years old in 6th grade. And so in order to bridge that, we have an advantage, and that is we have much greater parent participation. And the parents get behind it. They serve as our chaperones, because we have situations where our kids cannot be driving themselves to activities and events. So we loop the parents into it. They want their students to have that experience. And the other really strong advantage to our middle school Interact clubs is the connections to our Rotary clubs. We are very, very fortunate to have a great sponsorship from the Surprise Rotary Club. And we participate in community activities alongside our club members, and they participate in our activities alongside our Interact club members. And to kind of give you an idea, I'd like to share with you, this is just a simple overview of some of the, as soon as I can figure out why I'm not sharing. Here we go. Thank you. And hopefully you can see it in just a moment. Can you see a screen that says Interact Club? Art?
Green.
Yes, we see it.
Thank you very much. So this is just a list. I do a presentation at the start of each school year for my parents and for my students. And this is just a partial list of some of the activities that we've done. But for example, Rotary Club for the Kids Golf Tournament. This is an annual golf tournament. Many Rotary clubs have some type of event like that. And our kids go and they handle an actual putting contest. And as a result, they work at different places throughout the golf tournament. It gets them interacting with adults outside of Rotary Club members because of the golfers, and then they take home a portion of the proceeds for their contribution. And that's just one activity. One year, our Rotary Club members came to the school and we set up stations, and we actually built water pasteurization devices that went over to Africa. And we had different stations to create these so that people could boil them and determine if their water was potable. So we participate in all of these different things and others. And we've accidentally come across certain things. During COVID, the desire was to keep middle school going. So we did situations where students' parents could pick up materials at school, or they went on and bought them. Then we got on Zoom and we made dog toys out of t-shirts and tennis balls that we found out. We made them originally to donate them to the veterans programs for warriors with service animals. And then we found out that people wanted to buy them, and it turned into a fundraiser. And we do that every year now, and it's just expanding. That's something that a middle school kid can wrap their head around. We've had peace essay competitions where the kids write peace essays, and our club helps judge those essays and then recognizes the students. So it's a real mix between school-based activities that support and community-based activities that we support. And again, that big glue to it all is what the school's done. Plus, I'm in that Rotary Club and the connection that we make with our Rotary Club. Our students run a Rotary Club meeting every year as the actual officers. So it's a real learning experience that we begin to build. And we've had siblings of kids join the club. I have second generation kids that were in third and fourth grade when their siblings drug them to our meetings because they had to look after them after school. And I said, bring them along. Now those kids are in our club. So there's a lot to it that makes it really worthwhile in my estimation. And we are continuing to expand middle school clubs throughout our district, and it leads into high school and beyond. Out of that, one of the things that came about is, well, what more can we do to help reinforce the leadership aspect, since middle school kids cannot go to overseas on an exchange or any of the other really great opportunities that we can offer to high school interactors. So we decided that, well, we can give them a RYLA. So 2 years ago, we created the Junior RYLA. And from that Junior RYLA camp, the first year when we launched it, and here's some photographs. First year when we launched it, we had 36 delegates participate. It's 3 nights and 4 days, half a day on Wednesday through Saturday morning. And we have everything from Rotary type leadership activities to educational leadership type activities, because we have educators as part of this planning group. And we have the kids learning everything from team building. They do archery, they do a confidence building course, low ropes. We do a theme of what is your why? And so we really begin to help them understand, where does Interact fit into the scheme of Rotary, and what is Rotary, and what is a 4-way test, and where can I go from middle school, and how will this benefit me in the future? So they seek out high school clubs. Then they go on to Rotaract. And so we're very excited that we're building this from the ground up. When we launched this 2 years ago, as I said, we had 36 participants. Last year, we had 60 delegates and 60 middle schoolers. And then we're very fortunate that we recruited high school Interact clubs, university club members from Rotaracts to help with being junior counselors and guiding the students from that level as well. So it's been a really exciting launch, and we are at it again this summer. We can accommodate up to 100, but initially we were trying to make sure that we were building this strong. We have our kids do everything as much along with, excuse my train of thought got lost there, from keeping journals, writing about their experiences, reflecting on them. On the closing morning, we have a sunrise reflection hike. We do some stretching, some breathing, some yoga, and then they go off and they come back, they reflect, and we do an evaluation system that is pre and post. What did you know about these elements beforehand? What do you know now? And 100% in the past 2 years, 100% have said they would recommend participating in this camp to other students. So we're very excited. I served as the co-director for the first 2 years. This year I am assistant director, to see this grow and expand. And I'm happy to share with anybody at any time any details I can as far as middle school Interact, or the concept of creating a junior RYLA experience for these younger interactors.
Thank you, Jeri. We've talked so far about Interact. We've talked about RYLA. And now we're going to talk about youth exchange. John Stroud from District 5470. John, take it away. If you'll stop sharing there, Jeri.
He's stopped sharing there. Let's see. There we go. All right. Thanks, Art. So again, my name's John Stroud, and I've been actively involved at the district level with Rotary Youth Exchange for about a dozen years now, helping out with things like the outbound applicant interview process, chaperoning inbound outings, and personally hosting several of the students in our own home. And so I think it was about April of 2020 when I got a call from our incoming youth exchange district chair, Christy Redlinger, asking if I would be willing to be her vice chair for 3 years, starting that July, and then committing to become the district chair starting this year, which I did in July. And so I'm sure you all remember what was happening in April of 2020 with all the shutdowns due to the pandemic and a lot of uncertainty about many things in our lives at that point in time. Among them, of course, was Rotary Youth Exchange. We were still very busy at that point trying to get some of our inbound students back home. And likewise on the outbound side, as we had students who were stuck overseas well into the spring, and some of them weren't even able to come back until May or June that year. So we had a lot of work on our hands just to figure out how to get our students back where they needed to be. The decision would soon come that we would not be able to proceed with the 2020-21 exchange year, which of course brought a lot of disappointment for the students that we had already gone through the process and selected to go out on exchange that coming year. We weren't sure if we'd be able to proceed with our usual fall cycle of soliciting outbound student applicants and getting ready for the 2021-22 exchange year. And ultimately that year was canceled as well. So it wasn't really until about June, I think, of 2022 that we were given the green light by Rotary International to proceed for the 2022-23 exchange year. But there were still a lot of questions about how we were going to go about that with some of the protocols that were still in place. A lot of schools were still online at that point too. And so we were trying to figure out how best to approach it. So we did decide to take the applications as usual, and but with a later deadline, in hopes that we could have our outbound interview and selection weekend in person. That ultimately didn't happen. We ended up having conducting our interviews via Zoom, which was a little bit awkward, but it was effective. We actually had a lot of interest. I think there was a kind of a desire among students at that point in time to just find a way to escape and get out of here, which was something that we had to kind of take into consideration as we did the interviews too, just to make sure the motivation was the right motivation, and making sure they just weren't looking for an escape after all of the trauma that we had been through with the pandemic. But with some good recruiting efforts in our clubs and in our schools, we did end up with 16 applicants that year, which was down from our usual 25 to 30, but still encouraging given what we had been through and trying to bring the program back. We were able to have our two orientations that year in person, which was good, and we were able to have that face-to-face time with the students before we sent them off on exchange. Ultimately, some great things really came out of that initial year back in active youth exchange. We hosted a student from Zimbabwe, Nash, in Durango, Colorado, who we were able to bring to our district through our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, and raise some funds locally to help support his exchange. The Durango High Noon Rotary Club ended up being able to help his family purchase a home upon his return back to Zimbabwe earlier this year. So that was a great story that came out of that. And This year, we're still down in our numbers. We have 12 outbound students and 12 inbound students, so an even match there. But we're really working to try to get back up to that 25 to 30, both on the outbound and inbound side, and get back to being able to support the program. The more students we have, the more things we're able to do budgetarily and things like that. So we really need to build those numbers back up. But I have to say, the enthusiasm about the program has just been amazing, and the efforts to bring the program back after those 2 years off. Our 2022-23 class of rebound students came together in August for a retreat and had some very honest discussion about their year abroad and some of the struggles they had, and some of the lingering impacts of that came out of the pandemic. And they even formed our first ever Rotex Club and are very engaged in helping us market and regrow the program here in District 5470. And this year, we also have our first ever one-way exchange with Ukraine. We have a young man named Alex who is in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, and many of the clubs in our district stepped up to help support his exchange year here, did some fundraisers, and this, of course, is a one-way exchange. We don't have anyone in Ukraine, of course, but gave him the opportunity to come and have a exchange experience in the United States. So, we really have bounced back rather successfully. Our outbound numbers and inbound numbers are still lower than what we had before the pandemic, about 50% down. So like I said, we're still trying to bring those numbers back up. We did have a couple of early returns that were concerning that first year back. One of which was directly related to that student not being able to make it to one of our orientation sessions, where they missed some key information about chain of command, and once they arrived in their host country, and unfortunately ended up in an early return that we just couldn't really get around. Another one of our early returns was due to some emotional trauma that I really feel was kind of one of those lingering impacts of the pandemic. Just wasn't quite ready. They thought they were ready and got there, and it just didn't work out. Weren't able to make it work. So, but overall, it's been a success, and I credit that to a group of committed volunteers at the district and club levels to stick with it and stay passionate about the program. A lot of our Rotary clubs and districts, I know, lost Rotarians during the pandemic, and many of them were active with youth services. So, there was that as well that we had to contend with. But my own years of involvement kept me passionate about bringing the program back strong. Christy as well felt the same way. One of our rebound students from back in 2015, 2016 became our outbound coordinator. And she's very passionate about the program and is, really committed to keeping it going. And we maintained a core group of country coordinators, which was also really important too, to maintain those contacts with our exchange partners abroad. This year, we recruited the parents of one of our 2022-23 rebound students to become two of our country coordinators. And, they've just jumped in full bore and signed up even to come to the NIAN conference in Vancouver coming up next March. So I think, the most important thing we did was to just keep working it, not giving up, keeping our key people involved, and just think about that untapped, very enthusiastic resource that we have with our rebound students and their parents, especially if it was a successful exchange. They had a good experience with the program, want to support it, and those are some of the people that we need to get active with the program and help us bring it back even more. And then even some of our newer Rotarians who've come on board in the last 2 years and who are passionate about serving youth. I think it's important to get those people involved as well. Almost out of time here, but just did kind of want to share a few photos. Here's here's Nash presenting at our interview weekend last year. A couple of our other students. That was our rebound farewell weekend where they all signed their flags. And that was our interview weekend country fair. So, it's just to say it's been really exciting to see it come back the way it has. So that was our story.
Thank you, John. It's often been called the crown jewel of Rotary International, the Youth Exchange Program. It's good to see it coming back. Now from 5150, Lynn, who is consultant to some 50 nonprofit organizations, been very involved with 5150's RYLA program, going to be talking to us about building bridges to real action.
Thank you, Art, and thank you everyone for joining. So I'm with District 5150, which is Marin, San Francisco, and San Mateo counties. We moved from a 3-day RYLA in April to a 5-day RYLA in August, just before students go back to school. We've seen a good rebound. The largest RYLA we've ever hosted was a total of 170 students. That's 155 new campers and 15 alums. This past August, we had 130 new campers and 20 alums back. And most of the alums are in high school and a few in college. So I think bridging to real action, there are several things that we do that do that. Obviously, our RYLA covers a number of the kinds of things that you've been talking about, zip line and low ropes, etc. But one thing we start with the application, and on the application, we ask a couple of questions. What are the issues you personally see as the most challenging in your community or the world? And which single community or world challenge are you personally most passionate about? From this, and you can see that those are open-ended questions. Based on that, we receive and sort of collate and look at what the key answers are. In the past couple of years, as you can imagine, the top winners: climate change, racism, mental health, connecting back to Jeremiah's great presentation, LGBTQ, discrimination, hunger, homelessness. And the one that popped on the screen this year that we've never seen is healthcare access and quality. So obviously they're having some questions, some conversations at home about these kinds of issues. So as in bridging to the real world, we then create sessions at RYLA. We bring in presenters, facilitators who can help in a seminar style think through the kinds of issues. Chris Miller, who's on, actually did a session on mental health. We have a session on self-care, self-management. We brought in somebody from the state to talk about homelessness and what's driving homelessness and what are some of the solutions in California. We also have a session on life after high school. Somewhat surprised to me, our sessions on money management are very, very popular. We call it "My Money Don't Jiggle, Jiggle, It Folds." I see Bridget grinning. Only, I'm sorry, we didn't know what it meant, but the younger set gets it immediately. You can look up the jingle. So again, we're just trying to build bridges to their life when they leave here, give them insight. Our sessions on homelessness or racism or any of the topics, we also provide a list of resources, what they can connect to once they get back to their homes. So again, the content varies, but we always find either Rotarians or others who can facilitate content. So that's one bridge to real action. The second one is, oh, I have to get rid of that one before I can do that, I guess. There we go. The second one is, although there was a broad collection of activities, what we've started over the past few years is to put an overall framework in place. And one of the frameworks that we like for leadership is the work of Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner in their book, The Leadership Challenge. That book is now approaching 4 million copies sold. It's been translated into languages globally. This is a very, very actionable, simple way to think about leadership. Whether you're in junior high, you're in high school, and throughout your entire career, these are tried and true, tested practices. You know, model the way. You get that. You understand it just by seeing it. Inspire a shared vision. Challenge the process. Enable others to act, and encourage the heart. So we have signage like this throughout the camp. Students do skits around these topics. But I think the main bridge here is that the kind of leadership development we're doing ought to be portable to their entire career and their entire life. And this is a simple framework that we use that we feel has been very successful. The other thing we've done is the hero's journey. So there's a particular, if you go to, there we go. As you can see here, if you just go and Google Joseph Campbell, this video by Matthew Winkler and Carril, the hero's journey, it takes, it gives them a connection to a lot of the things that they have seen. The Hunger Game, for example, is all about the hero's journey. We divide our students into teams of 10 with no student from the same school with that team. Each team has 2 adult facilitators. We don't call them counselors anymore. We really teach facilitation to these individuals so they can draw students out. They can do things that many of you have talked about, which is to after a student experiences something, how do you debrief that? How do you get them to reflect and think about what just happened? But the hero's journey really helps them see they are embarking on a hero's journey. And I like to say that every one of us, we don't set ourselves up as experts, but every one of us is going through a hero's journey. Every one of us is taking a risk when we come to camp. Every one of them, you know, we never know who's going to come to the party and what we're going to have to deal with. But we deal with it. We have challenges throughout the camp, and we exit camp a different person. So again, the whole idea of encouraging risk-taking, encouraging what I would call leaning into your fear is very, very important. The last thing I would like to talk about, it may seem simple, but it's pretty profound to the students. In the great room where there are 170 students gathered, plus facilitators, etc., everyone involved in camp has an affirmation bag around the room. It has their first and last name. They're all organized by first name. And if they're on a team, we use Hero's Journey team names. So it could be Harry Potter, it could be Cinderella, it could be Frozen, you know, etc. We have lots of 3x5 cards, lots of pencils and pens, and we just encourage throughout the camp to drop notes in these bags. It really follows the 5th principle of exemplary practice, which is encouraging the heart. So these bags get loaded with notes. We never know as a leader or as a facilitator if we've done something that's really meaningful to a student. You know, I made an espresso for one of the students who came to our room. You know, so I get an affirmation card. It's just something that's important. We asked them at the final day after the final ceremony to pick up their bag, stick it in their backpack, perhaps read it on the bus on the way home, or just take it home and read it. And it's a very, very joyous thing to know that you've been encouraged to do something. So I could say a lot more, but those are some of the connections to real world and helping reduce mental health anxieties in students.
Thank you, Lynn. And we're going to wrap up now with the sixth presentation, which is talking about building bridges from Interact to Rotaract, Rotaract to Rotary, and Colleen Coons is going to be sharing, and also Bridget McDonald. Take it away, ladies. Colleen, you're muted.
I figured that. Okay, so let's try this again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, so on behalf of Arizona Rotaract Council, Art, I want to first thank you for the inclusion. Sometimes we're not forgotten because, as Jeri says, on to Rotaract. But when you guys take it on to Rotaract or go from Interact, we take them from here. So thank you, Art. And we're honored to be part of the Building Bridges. Never knew that building is never ending, but building bridges is what we're here to do. My name is Colleen Coons, and I am the District 5495 Rotaract Chair for Arizona Rotaract. And I'm co-presenting with Bridget McDonald, an ASU Rotaractor. She is also on our council as the Director of International or Interact Relations. In addition to, she's our Director of Social Media. Once you hear from her, you'll understand why that's so important. So before I begin, if I can ask everyone to go to their reactions tab, which is down below on your Zoom link, and go to your reactions and answer this question. Raise your hand or give me a little high five if you're aware of this. How many of you are aware or have a Rotaract Council? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share 3 takeaways from this, right? Our Rotaract Council is made up of 9 council members that serves our Rotaract clubs. We have 3 community clubs and 4 university clubs, and they ebb and flow. We can go as high as 6 university clubs and 4 community clubs, and go to where we're at today with 7. When we started this Rotaract Council journey, there was 1 club. So we're pretty excited. We're made up of 2 districts, District 5495 and District 5500. And if you don't know the numbers, don't worry. We are Arizona. Encompasses the whole state. So we were formed, well, actually, John had mentioned, you know, you capture those Rotarians who want to serve, especially if they've been a Rotary Youth Exchange parent. So my 2 sons went on a Rotary Youth Exchange. That's when I met Art, and I've been working with Art ever since. So our council was formed in 2021, and we had 2 purposes: a vision of growth with clubs, to grow more clubs, and to grow more members within Rotaract. So we broke that down, and we created Interact to Rotaract, and then Rotaract to Rotary. So what is Interact to Rotaract, right? It's about awareness. Never thought I would see all of Arizona in the amount of time when we started our council, but we did. I went to RYLA. I've been a mentor. I've been a counselor. I've been a participant. Art has graciously always invited us to his fall leadership conference. In addition to, we have a table at our Interact district conference. I go and visit Rotary clubs. And that's been a really cool experience, going and being a presenter or just going and observing different Rotary clubs within our district, which actually helped prepare me to be our club president today. And then we also go visit Interact clubs, and we understand from their perspective what it's like. So really, it's a roadshow, and we're always, or the Interactors are always aware that Rotaract is there. And our main purpose of that is to capitalize on their excitement. We all know Interactors have so much energy and they're so excited. We want to make sure that they take that excitement and join a Rotaract club. Bridget's going to talk a little bit more about this, but we created gamification for consistency. And really what that means is, what is the consistent, fun thing you can do that puts the Rotaract name behind it? And again, Bridget will talk a little bit more about that. And lastly, I want to ask everyone a question. How do you get a teenager to listen, retain, and take action, right? I had two teenagers myself, and that was always the trick. How do you get them to listen, retain, and take action? So Bridget came up with this great idea to communicate on a platform that was easy, accessible, and relevant to the high schoolers. The second journey that we have, or second part of the vision, is Rotaract to Rotary. We all know as Rotarians that we want to continue to sustain Rotary, and what not a great place but have those Rotaractors that have these great experiences. So on our district council, we realigned our directors, such as Bridget. We realigned our directors to serve on the district committees of our district governors. And that serves as a twofold purpose. On the district committees, you have the voice of Rotaract. You have that younger professional or that younger university student giving their voice. Awareness. So each of our Rotaract clubs have 3 or 4 Rotary sponsors, and they engage together. Rotaract is at every tabling event that the district has. So it's twofold. Rotaractors are visible, Rotaractors engage with Rotary, and then also it's a great way to fundraise for that Rotaract club. So I encourage everybody to go visit azrotaract.org. You can see what's going on with all of our different clubs within our AZ Rotaract. And John Doerr had said, ideas are easy. Execution is everything, and it takes a team to win. So I'm going to now give it over to Bridget McDonald, because like I said, she not only has the great ideas, but she also has the skill set to execute these visions. Bridget?
Hi, everyone. My name is Bridget, and I just want to quickly, we have 3 minutes left, so I want to quickly go through this. So just a little background. I joined Interact when I was a freshman. That's now 10 years ago, which is absolutely insane. I'm now in law school, and I realized that when I went to move to Rotaract, I didn't know what to do. And that was an issue because I was extremely involved in Interact. I was district governor, I went to Kenya, and yet I still didn't know what to do. And so, Colleen, could you go to the Discord slide? I realized that there was a separation between Rotary and Interactors, and not the involvement, not the activities that they did. It was getting them to go to that next step. And that's because we weren't really meeting Interactors where they are. Colleen, could you go to the Discord slide, please? And
I'm there.
I don't see
We're
that.
still on the first slide, Colleen.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Okay.
I'll just keep talking. Well, there we go. Okay. So I talked to Interactors and realized one of the platforms that a lot of them use is Discord. Especially throughout the pandemic, they talked to each other playing video games through this platform. So it was a platform a lot of Interactors already had. And so we were able to create a channel that all the Rotaract clubs are a part of, and also seniors in Interact can join, and they join at the Interact District Conference, and they get to learn about Rotaract. They get to learn about what Rotaract is, what clubs and universities they can join, what community clubs they can join, and all of those amazing next steps for Rotaract. So that was our information hub. But then how could we get involved with Rotaractor? So our Rotarians really work very closely to our Interact clubs because they sponsor them. But what can Rotaract do to help bring that involvement and get our name out there? So the next slide is what we decided to do. We are sponsoring an Interact food drive. It's a competition. We've been doing it for 3 years now. So we're in our 4th year. And we give a pizza party reward to whoever wins. 2 different sections we have. We have a large club and a small club because obviously all over Arizona, there's different club sizes. And it's for the whole month of November. They report at the every Sunday how many cans their club has collected. And then they each donate their club's collections to their local food bank. We use our social media platforms to announce this and really get that competition going so people can see how everyone else is doing. And we've, so far with all of our Interact clubs, we've collected over 10,000 cans and donated them. And they get a presentation at the Interact District Conference, which is the next slide. So here we present the winners of the food drive. So we get everyone's attention and then we go into what Rotaract is. We talk to various interactors, we get the seniors to join the Discord, and then we collect seniors information so we can make sure that they have a path forward to the next step in Rotaract, whether that's community club or a university club. And so from this, there are a couple key takeaways from this whole thing. If you can't do a food drive, is offer support to the Interact District Council members. These are the leaders of these Interact clubs. This is where that direct connection is going to be coming from. I email them, I introduce myself to them so they know who I am. I talk to Interact clubs. And from there around the valley, I go and talk to Interact clubs, let them know who I am. And I just try and make sure that I'm available, that our council is available to answer any questions, whether on social media or on the Discord or wherever it is, that interactors know that Rotaractors are their next step and they can see a face, they can put a face to Rotaract and know that there is somewhere for them to be. So that's what we do.
Thank you, Bridget and Colleen. We're going to be going now into 5 discussion groups, and you'll be moved into these groups and you'll have a chance to talk about your reactions to the presentations and to share some things that may be happening in your district. And we'll come back for a quick breakup or wrap up after your discussions.
We are back.
Yes, we're back. And everybody with the rooms closing and coming back together in one group. And I hope that you had some interesting discussions in the breakout rooms and that you found something of value in those, as well as something of value in the presentations that were made. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to be able to do Q&A after each of the presentations. That would have been very valuable. But by doing this condensed 90-minute format, it really does limit what we can do in that area. But I hope that we accomplish some of that in the breakout room. Do we have anyone who would particularly like to say something about your breakout room experience or about the conference that you would like to share with the rest of the group at this point?
This is Cisca. Can I just,
Yes.
I want to, this is my first rodeo, right? And I want to thank you for bringing such an eclectic group of people in the diverse areas that we serve our youth in Rotary. I enjoyed it. I learned things, and I thought you were all great presenters, and the breakout room was engaging. So
Good.
I think you did a great job, Art.
Anybody else want to have comment or question? Okay, I want to thank each of you for taking the time to join us for this. We will be having another one of these sessions coming up in February, and we'll let you know what's happening. That particular one is going to deal with the resources that are available to our districts for youth protection. And every one of our programs, of course, has that concern of keeping our young people safe that are participating in them. I want to particularly thank our 6 presenters, 7 presenters today, and also the task force members who facilitated the discussion groups. This was recorded for the main presentations, and we have a way of then translating that into a YouTube video, and then the videos from each of the conferences that our Rotary Youth Task Force has sponsored are on a single site, and we'll be giving information about how to access that site. I see something coming up here. It says Wendy Lacrosse is.
Art, are you able to send out to everyone who was here today slide decks as well as contact information for everyone who was here today?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great.
All right. Again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Trying to keep this on time, and our 90 minutes is up. And as I said, there'll be a video that'll be produced out of this that you can be shared. You can go back, look at it. You can share it with others about the messages that were given here. And we'll send you the contact information for the presenters as well. We'll send that out as well as the location of the video. So again, thank you so much for being here. Hope you found something of value in our session today.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you, and bye.
Good job, Art.
Thank
you.
you. Fabulous.